Hey everybody! In today's video, I'm going to do a little bit of mail art with a very fun ink layering technique for creating labels that you can use on envelopes or packages, and also matching backgrounds for the cards that go inside those envelopes. To get started, I have cut some of my favorite label paper down to 5.5 by 7.5. I will link to this below the video and on my blog. And this is my 5 by 7 gel press, so that's why I wanted the label to be just a little bit bigger. I can cut it down, but this will leave me a white border around the printed area. And I have this set up in my MISTI. These work great in the MISTI, but you do need to take the foam out, which I forgot to do here. And then just use it like you would use a photopolymer stamp in your MISTI. Now, the idea behind this technique is to create beautiful, layered, interesting backgrounds, but at the same time, not have them be distracting or have really clearly discernible images. I just want some interest and some texture. So first I'm putting Daffodil Delight ink directly on the gel press, and I'm using a stamp from Timeless Textures. It's just an element, a design element that I really like the look of, and I'm just taking this dry and picking up ink from the inked gel press. Now, when I do that the first time, I'm also transferring ink, and so you can get some kind of cool, almost 3D effects when you're moving this stamp around the inked plate. If you just want to lift, then clean your stamp in between. Then you'll just press the press onto the label paper. The reason you don't want to use paint with this technique is the label paper is really thin. It's not like cardstock, and it wouldn't hold up to all that moisture. So you can see these neat little designs, real subtle in that yellow ink, and we're just getting started. This is going to be really cool by the time I'm done. Next, I'm going to use this floral image from Touches of Texture. It's sort of a grunge daisy. And what happens when you use bolder images like this is you pull more ink up off the inked plate. And that reveals the colors underneath the design that you're putting down in the second ink layer. And I just clean in between ink layers with my absorber. And I will also link to my absorber in the description below and on my blog. I know not everyone has one yet, and it's an invaluable tool for stamping. So next layer is going to be Pool Party ink, just a very pale aqua. And again, I'm going to pick up ink with this big bold daisy and let some of that yellow shine through and some of the pattern. What's cool about ink, as opposed to paint, which we're all used to gel printing with, is the transparency. So you get color blending, you can see through to the images below, and it really makes for an interesting sort of collage look. And, you know, I love ink. We all love ink. You can use it a million different ways on the gel press. So now that that's clean, I'm actually going to tone the color down a little bit before the final layers. And you can do that with any neutral, any light colored neutral. So this is Smoky Slate, which is a very, very light gray. And I'm actually going to pull most of that off with this background stamp, Tree Rings. It's a real intricate stamp, so you won't really be able to see the pattern, but it's just going to remove a lot of the ink and just let me subtly tone my work so far down a little bit. This is one of my favorite techniques, especially when I'm getting ready to switch gears color-wise, because it can prevent you from getting sort of a muddy look when you combine complementary colors or maybe non-analogous colors. Just neutralizes it a tiny bit. Maybe that's because I've been watercoloring lately, and my new favorite watercolor is Neutral Tint by Daniel Smith. I'm using it for everything. So it might be influencing me here. Now I'm going to go for a warmer yellow. This is Crushed Curry, has a tiny touch of orange in it, which I really like. It's a good sunny yellow. And you might think that's weird with the green, but it's not. And then I'm going to use the Background Bits Host set from Stampin' Up! And just a very fine little detailed stamp. I'm not looking to add much pattern here, just lighter and darker spots to reveal the ink underneath. This is going to warm this up significantly, adding this layer. And then I'm going to go in for a really warm layer at the end. That is beautiful. And you can see the lighter and darker areas, and you can see the colors underneath, which is my favorite thing about this technique. Now you're really going to think I've lost my mind because the last layer is actually going to be orange. And I know you think I'm crazy, but I'm not. You should experiment with all sorts of colors. This is Calypso Coral. And this is almost a pinkish orange, a really nice coral, and despite what you think, it's going to be beautiful with this sort of green toned piece that I'm working on. And I'm going back to the first stamp I used, just that sort of filigree element. It's beautiful. I'm going to pick that up and also put it down because that's what I do if I don't clean it. I like both of those looks. And then since this is a sort of more of a mid-tone ink, you're really going to be able to see that pattern really well in the finished result. I'll get that all pressed down. You can even let those bubbles work to your advantage if you want and leave some open areas. But now you can see that beautiful kind of verdigris color come through the design. And you have an all over super interesting textured look, but it won't distract from what I do with it in my card design. And that is why I love doing this. But we should all have pretty envelopes to go with our pretty cards. And I have not been all that good about that. So that's why I'm remedying it in this video. Now I'll speed the second one up. I'm going to go through the same process, but end up with a different color scheme. So I started with Daffodil Delight, then Lemon Lime Twist, my favorite color right now. And I pulled a floral out of that, which looks really cool, that daisy. And then Bermuda Bay, just to up the teal game just a tiny bit. And then that comes out sort of a Kelly green. So I'm going to add just a little bit more blue. You can also use scrunched up, cling wrap, all kinds of different stuff to get fun textures. And then at the end, because I hadn't cleaned my stamp all that well, you can see lower left, a little bit of that Calypso Coral remained, and I love it. It became my favorite part of this one. So I'm actually going to lightly stamp that same element in Calypso Coral directly onto the plate. That'll increase the subtlety of the image, which I don't want to be super crisp, but I do want more of that color. That's so pretty. And I'll add that on there. And then this label paper will be finished. You can see my bubble right there. So here's what that looks like with those beautiful reds in there. It's just so interesting. I could seriously do these all day. This is going to make great labels. So you actually get 4 if you do an oval because you also get a frame. So here's how mine came out for half the piece. The other half went on to 2 cards using the Climbing Orchid stamp set. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Hope you make some pretty mail art. Thanks so much for watching.